So Todd, thank you so much for sitting down and talking with us. So tell me, was there a point in time when you were growing up where you knew you wanted to be a filmmaker? And if so, tell us about it.
You know, it really all started for me through photography, oddly. I would take a lot of photos, and it was all started from storytelling through photography before I even realized that directing is a thing. You know, when you're really young, you just think movies are said by actors or something, you know, and then you start realizing there's a whole thing behind it. So for me, it all started through, oddly, visual stuff and photography, and that was where I began to realize, and then I got introduced to movies and filmmakers, and it just kind of went from there.
Do you remember growing up and seeing a movie and thinking, oh, I love that movie?
I mean, there's a million movies that for me, obviously I was inspired by a lot of comedies, whether Stripes had a big effect on me, Blues Brothers had a big effect on me, those comedies. And then when I went to college and I started getting introduced to other films like Preston Sturges and actual, history of comedies, and Billy Wilder, and then I really was opened up to a whole new thing. But just growing up, it was like, yeah, it was a lot of the comedies.
So what do you think needs to be there to really draw you to a project? What are the essential elements?
It's not anything in particular. I like the idea of, for me, a lot of my decisions are based on just like casting. I think movies are so much about casting, and I think the opportunity to either introduce new people or the opportunity to get two people together, like Robert Downey and Zach in this movie. I get excited by the casting potential and working with actors and that kind of thing. There's not really elements that a movie has to have to get me interested in thinking about directing it. It's more kind of a slower and more organic process. I mean, DueDate came about very quickly since The Hangover, but it was something I'd been working on for a couple of years just at my company. We have a few projects, and so there's always stuff brewing around, and I was making The Hangover, and suddenly I thought, God, I want to find something else for Zach, and I'm looking through the things we've been working on,
And how do you find new comedic talent? You introduce new people. How do you find them? What do you look for?
I just look for guys that are irreverent. I mean, I think so much of comedy is about irreverence, and so much of it is about, surprise. And for me, like, I go to comedy clubs all the time. I mean, I've been seeing Zach for 10 years before I ever worked with him on The Hangover. And I just always was responding to his irreverent spirit on stage. Whether he was connecting with the audience or bombing, it didn't matter to him. He was just doing it, and he almost enjoyed it more when he was bombing. And there's something about that irreverence that I know there's a danger underneath it. And in a weird way, when a comedy with people, comedy filmmaking, danger kind of always is lurking under it, and it makes it feel more real. I think I lost my train of thought, but there's a danger to some of the comedians in film that I really respond to, and Zach's one.
So when you were seeing Zach for 10 years prior to ever working with him, were you thinking in the back of your mind, I need to find the project for him?
I was thinking, and there's a bunch of people that I see and I think, oh, that guy would be great. And Zach even came in on, I think, on Road Trip or Old School and read, and I'd seen Zach in other movies, but I always thought he wasn't being used right. And I thought, I'm going to find something one day, and I'm going to, it wasn't even a conscious thing, but suddenly start working The Hangover and start creating this character of Alan. And I go, who would just crush this, who's sort of left-footed? I mean, the character of Alan and in this movie, Ethan, they're both very left-footed with the world. And I thought, boy, Zach would just be perfect for that.
We've actually had people submit questions for you, and one of them was, well, what would you say to an aspiring comic?
I mean, I think it's like, for me, like I said, the thing that, but it's just for me personally, the thing I respond to is just a little bit air of irreverence. I really think comedy is about that at its core, and I think it's a really important thing that a lot of people tend to forget in this day and age when people are having an issue because Vince Vaughn says the word gay in a trailer or this and that. And it's like, everything starts to kind of get watered down, and it becomes, people are making decisions for you that don't have a funny bone in their body. So I think there's something really important to like sticking to the thing that turned you on to comedy in the first place, which 99% of the time is some irreverent spirit, whether it was Richard Pryor or Dave Chappelle. It was some irreverent thing that drew there in the first place. And I think it's really important to keep that in mind.
So on that topic a bit, so much of what goes into the process of making a movie is unseen by the people who love it the most. So could you maybe pick one scene from DueDate and give us an example of life on set?
There's an interesting scene in Due Date where the Zach character, who's really funny and all out, just crazy, has a real emotional breakdown in the scene in this bathroom in this kind of rest stop on their way on their trip. And to me, when you look at that scene and you break it down and you realize what the scene's about, you have one character who just despises the other character. Robert despises Zach, but Zach is sharing with him something that is really giving of Zach. He's sharing a huge part of himself, and then he starts to cry. And it's a really emotional moment in the movie, a surprisingly emotional moment, but the whole thing could have been played on Robert Downey's reaction, and it's part of, they say it's not the action, it's the reaction, and I think that scene is a perfect illustration of that, where Robert, who doesn't say a word in the scene, is truly carrying all the baggage, and Zach, who is crying through the whole scene, it's all on Robert's reaction. And I just think it's an interesting scene to look at as a filmmaker, or somebody who wants to be a filmmaker, or an actor, and somebody who wants to be an actor, and realize here's one of the great actors of all time, Robert Downey, who's playing that scene so well just through reaction.
So you say you like to discover new people. Who are some of the comedians that are out there right now that...
Oh, there's a lot, but I don't like to put them out there. Then they'll get signed onto some lame TV show and they'll be ruined. I like to keep them as little secrets. And I'm sure they don't appreciate that, but no, there is always a lot of new talent in the comedy world, and new doesn't necessarily mean young either. Something I've always had a problem with. There's a lot of guys who've been kicking around that are just on the verge and just need the right role or moment.